Today on UPSC Science View, with the progress we are making on science and technology, security becomes more important than ever before. What would happen if the sensitive data falls into the hands of the wrong people? Hello and welcome to UPSC Science View at UPSC Practice. Today, let's discuss on the Pegasus Spyware. Edward Snowden is a former computer intelligence consultant who leaked highly classified information from the National Security Agency or NSA in 2013 when he was an employee and subcontractor for the Central Intelligence Agency or CIA. His disclosures revealed numerous global surveillance programs, many run by the NSA and the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance with the cooperation of telecommunication companies and European governments, and prompted a cultural discussion about national security and individual privacy. Let's hear what Edward Joseph Snowden have to say on the Pegasus spyware.
This is everywhere. This is an industry that should not exist. We're seeing what the NSO Group, which is sort of the most famous of these guys, is up to. But the NSO Group is only one company of many. And if one company smells this bad, what's happening with all the others? I mean, when I look at this, what the Pegasus project has revealed is a sector where their only product are infection vectors, right? They don't, they're not security products. They're not providing any kind of protection, any kind of prophylactic. They don't make vaccines. The only thing they sell is the virus. And I think saying that they only sell this to government doesn't make that better when you look at who the targets are that have just been revealed.
Pegasus is a spyware developed by the Israeli cyberarms firm NSO Group that can be covertly installed on mobile phones and other devices running most versions of iOS and Android. The 2021 Project Pegasus revelations suggest that the current Pegasus software can exploit all recent iOS versions up to iOS 14.6. As of 2016, Pegasus was capable of reading text messages, tracking calls, collecting passwords, location tracking, accessing the target device's microphone and camera, and harvesting information from apps. The spyware is named after Pegasus, the winged horse of Greek mythology. It is a Trojan horse computer virus that can be sent flying through the air to infect cell phones. NSO Group was previously owned by American private equity firm Francisco Partners, but it was bought back by its founders in 2019. The company states that it provides authorized governments with technology that helps them combat terror and crime. NSO Group has published sections of contracts which require customers to use its product only for criminal and national security investigations and has stated that it has an industry-leading approach to human rights. Pegasus was discovered in August 2016 after a failed installation attempt on the iPhone of a human rights activist led to an investigation revealing details about the spyware, its abilities, and the security vulnerabilities it exploited. News of the spyware caused significant media coverage. It was called the most sophisticated smartphone attack ever and marked the first time that a malicious remote exploit using jailbreak to gain unrestricted access to an iPhone had been detected. On August 23, 2020, according to intelligence obtained by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, NSO Group sold Pegasus spyware software for hundreds of millions of US dollars to the United Arab Emirates and the other Gulf states for surveillance of anti-regime activists, journalists, and political leaders from rival nations, with encouragement and mediation by the Israeli government. Later in December 2020, the Al Jazeera investigative show The Tip of the Iceberg, Spy Partners, exclusively covered Pegasus and its penetration into the phones of media professionals and activists, and its use by Israel to eavesdrop on both opponents and allies. In July 2021, widespread media coverage part of the Project Pegasus revelations along with an in-depth analysis by human rights group Amnesty International uncovered that Pegasus was still being widely used against high-profile targets. It showed that Pegasus was able to infect all modern iOS versions up to iOS 14.6 through a zero-click iMessage exploit. Let's learn about the discovery of the Pegasus spyware. Pegasus iOS exploitation was identified in August 2016. Arab human rights defender Ahmed Mansour received a text message promising secrets about torture happening in prisons in the United Arab Emirates by following a link. Mansour sent the link to Citizen Lab, who investigated with the collaboration of Lookout, finding that if Mansour had followed the link, it would have jailbroken his phone and implanted the spyware into it, in a form of social engineering. Citizen Lab linked the attack to the NSO Group. Regarding how widespread the issue was, Lookout explained in a blog post, "We believe that this spyware has been in the wild for a significant amount of time based on some of the indicators within the code," and pointed out that the code shows signs of a kernel mapping table that has values all the way back to iOS 7, which was released in 2013. The New York Times and the Times of Israel both reported that it appeared that the United Arab Emirates was using this spyware as early as 2013. It was used in Panama by former President Ricardo Martinelli from 2012 to 2014, who established the Consejo Nacional de Seguridad, or the National Security Council, for its use. Several lawsuits outstanding in 2018 claimed that NSO Group helped clients operate the software and therefore participated in numerous violations of human rights initiated by its clients. 2 months later, after the murder and dismemberment of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi, a Saudi human rights activist, in the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul, Turkey, Saudi dissident Omar Abdulaziz, a Canadian resident, filed suit in Israel against NSO Group, accusing the firm of providing the Saudi government with the surveillance software to spy on him and his friends, including Khashoggi. Let's learn about the details of the spyware. The Pegasus spyware can be installed on devices running certain versions of iOS, Apple's mobile operating system, as well as some Android devices. Rather than being a specific exploit, Pegasus is a suite of exploits that uses many vulnerabilities in the system. Infection vectors include clicking links, the Photos app, the Apple Music app, and iMessage. Some of the exploits Pegasus uses are zero-click, that is, they can run without any interaction from the victim. Once installed, Pegasus has been reported to be able to run arbitrary code, extract contacts, call logs, messages, photos, web browsing history, settings, as well as gather information from apps including but not limited to communication apps, iMessage, Gmail, Viber, Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram, and Skype. At the 2017 Security Analyst Summit held by Kaspersky Lab, researchers revealed that Pegasus was available for Android in addition to iOS. Google refers to the Android version as Chrysaor, the brother of the winged horse Pegasus. Its functionality is similar to the iOS version, but the mode of attack is different. The Android version tries to gain root access similar to jailbreaking in iOS. If it fails, it asks the user for permissions that enable it to harvest at least some data. At the time, Google said that only a few Android devices had been infected. Pegasus hides itself as far as is possible and self-destructs in an attempt to eliminate evidence if unable to communicate with its command and control server for more than 60 days or if on the wrong device. Pegasus also can self-destruct on command. Human rights group Amnesty International reported in the 2021 Project Pegasus revelations that Pegasus employs a sophisticated command and control (CNC) infrastructure to deliver exploit payloads and send commands to Pegasus targets. There are at least 4 known iterations of the CNC infrastructure dubbed the Pegasus Anonymizing Transmission Network, or PATN, by the NSO Group, each encompassing up to 500 domain names, DNS servers, and other network infrastructure. The PATN, or Pegasus Anonymizing Transmission Network, reportedly utilizes techniques such as registering high port numbers for their online infrastructure so as to avoid conventional internet scanning. PATN also uses up to 3 randomized subdomains unique per exploit attempt as well as randomized URL paths. Let's take a look at the use of the spyware. Although Pegasus is stated as intended to be used against criminals and terrorists, Use by authoritarian governments to spy on critics and opponents has often been reported. Use by India. In late 2019, Facebook initiated a suit against NSO, claiming that Pegasus had been used to intercept the WhatsApp communications of a number of activists, journalists, and bureaucrats in India, leading to accusations that the Indian government was involved. Phone numbers of Indian ministers, opposition leaders, ex-election commissioners, and journalists were allegedly found on a database of NSO hacking targets by Project Pegasus in 2021. Independent digital forensic analysis conducted on 10 Indian phones whose numbers were present in the data showed signs of either an attempted or successful Pegasus hack. The results of the forensic analysis threw up shows sequential correlations between the time and date a phone number is entered in the list and the beginning of surveillance. The gap usually ranges between a few minutes and a couple of hours. 11 phone numbers associated with a female employee of the Supreme Court of India and her immediate family who accused the former Chief Justice of India, Ranjan Gogoi, of sexual harassment are also allegedly found on a database indicating possibility of their phones being snooped. Records also indicate that phone numbers of some of the key political players in Karnataka appeared to have been selected around the time when an intense power struggle was taking place between the Bharatiya Janata Party and Janata Dal Congress-led state government in 2019. It was reported that the Indian government used Pegasus to spy on Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan and diplomats from Iran, Afghanistan, China, Nepal, and Saudi Arabia. Use by Mexican drug cartels. Reversing the intended use against criminals, Pegasus has been used to target and intimidate Mexican journalists by drug cartels and cartel-entwined government actors. Use by Saudi Arabia. Pegasus software, whose sales are licensed by the government of Israel to foreign governments, helped Saudi Arabia spy on Jamal Khashoggi, who was later killed in Turkey. Pegasus was also used to spy on Jeff Bezos and Mohammed bin Salman. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia exchanged messages with him that exploited the then-known vulnerabilities in WhatsApp. Use by United Arab Emirates. The United Arab Emirates used Pegasus to spy on the members of Saudi-backed Yemeni government according to an investigation published in July 2021. The UAE used the spyware to monitor and spy on the ministers of the internationally recognized government of President Abrabu Mansur Hadi, including the President of Yemen and his family members, former Prime Minister Ahmed Obaid bin Dagher, former Foreign Minister Abdul Malik al-Mekhlafi, and current Minister of Youth and Sports Naif al-Bakri. Let's look at some of the revelations of Project Pegasus. A leak of a list of more than 50,000 telephone numbers believed to have been identified as those of people of interest by clients of NSO since 2016 became available to Paris-based media non-profit organization Forbidden Stories and Amnesty International. They shared the information with 17 news media organizations in what has been called Project Pegasus, and a month-long investigation was carried out which reported from mid-July 2021. The Pegasus project involved 80 journalists from the media partners, The Guardian, Radio France and Le Monde, Die Zeitung, The Washington Post, Haaretz, The Marker, The Wire, and several other publications. Evidence was found that many phones with numbers in the list had been targets of Pegasus spyware. However, the CEO of NSO Group categorically claimed that the list in question is unrelated to them. The source of the allegations can't be verified as reliable one. This is an attempt to build something on a crazy lack of information. There is fundamentally wrong with this investigation, he said. French intelligence ANSSI confirmed that Pegasus spyware had been found on the phones of 3 journalists, including a journalist of France 24, in what was the first time an independent and official authority corroborated the findings of the investigation. Shashi Tharoor is an Indian politician, writer, and former international diplomat who has been serving as the member of the Parliament, Lok Sabha, from Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala since 2009. He was formerly Under Secretary General of the United Nations and contested for the post of Secretary General in 2006. Let's hear what he has to say on the Pegasus spyware.
Well, it's a matter of concern because obviously in our country, we are a democracy. There is freedom of expression. You don't expect the government to be interfering with journalists doing their duty. So that is a real concern. Second, we know that apparently more details are scheduled to emerge tomorrow in which politicians, ministers, and according to the article, even a constitutional authority also seem to have been surveilled in this manner. And this raises some very serious questions about how the people who deployed this software were operating. I don't believe the government has acknowledged any responsibility for doing so. The NSO that sells Pegasus software claims they only sell it to vetted governments. So the question that comes up is whether the government of India did this or whether a foreign government is tapping or surveilling Indian phones. These are all very serious questions. The exceptions are things like national security, sovereignty of India, relations with friendly states, the usual stuff we've seen even going back to Article 19.1 of the Constitution. Those exceptions, in any case, is a formal procedure under which the Home Secretary with a committee has to approve this, and then within a certain number of months that has to go before a review committee, and in no case can this surveillance continue for more than 2 years. And explicitly under Section 43 of the IT Act, hacking, that is a placement of a virus on somebody's device or a snooping software on somebody's device, is actually explicitly forbidden. So if Pegasus was deployed on the phones of journalists, politicians, and so on, that's certainly, almost certainly, I'm not a judge, so I can't say it, but almost certainly would be illegal. Right. And if that's the case, then obviously consequence should follow.
Thank you very much for listening to this discussion on Project Pegasus, the spyware. For more such discussions, get the UPSC Practice app from the App Store.